Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 24 of Ultimate Exotics, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of top tier supercars. Now, I had a bit of a debate with myself, to be completely honest, as to whether or not this car should be included in this series or in the Supersport series. The vehicle is the Ferrari 288 GTO, or Gran Turismo Omologato. This is, as the name suggests, a homologation special, and this was essentially going to be a Ferrari rally car, but unfortunately it never had its chance. And once you know that about the car, which many people, I get the impression, don't realise, you can kind of see the similarities to this homologation special to other homologation cars, be it in a much more exotic way. It has some of those styling cues and souped up aero parts that you see on vehicles such as the Delta, the Audi Quattro, etc. Now, the reason why I wasn't sure as to whether or not this should really be in this series is because by modern standards, the stock performance of this car is more in the region of a super sports model than a full-on supercar. However, in previous episodes in this series, I have included vehicles in a certain series based on how they were marketed at the time of their release. Now obviously I only take that so far, because technically speaking, back in the 50s, the Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing would have been a super sports car, but that isn't going to be in the super sports series. However, from about the, say, 70s or 80s, predominantly 80s onwards, if a vehicle was marketed as being more of a supercar at that time, like for instance this car or the Lamborghini Countach for instance, then I will be classifying those vehicles as supercars, and as such this car will be featured in this series, even though its performance technically, in its stock form that is, would put it more on par with a modern day super sports car rather than a full-on supercar. Now, speaking of performance, what does it have to offer? Because it is one of the more popular Ferrari models. You see this car get a healthy amount of use, I would say. It's one of the more popular classic cars on Gran Turismo. It's only just a classic, technically, because a classic is anything from around 20 or 25 years old or prior, so it's only barely a classic car. But of the classic cars, especially of the 80s cars that are on the game, this is one of the most popular, possibly even the most popular. And the reason why is because it's so good. It's incredibly quick for its spec. Now, as the name suggests, this car is a 288 or 2.9 litre turbocharged Ferrari. It's mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, and fully tuned, it puts out a very impressive but no way near class leading 879 horsepower. Now, as good as that is, and that really is good for a 2.9 litre engine of its age, that isn't going to worry any of the modern supercars on the game. Now, as far as torque, it puts out 645, which again is very impressive for an engine of its size and age, but still wouldn't really worry the majority of supercars from, say, the year 2000 onward. So why is this car so good? Why do people use it? Well, the reason why it's so good is because this car does so much more with its performance than many other supercars. This car is a lot faster than its pure spec would suggest. If you looked at the sheer spec of this car on paper and looked at that 879 horsepower, its 1022 kilo curb weight, etc., you would probably come to the conclusion that it would have a top speed somewhere in the region of 270 or 280. Acceleration would possibly be quite good for a classic, but again, not really supercar level by modern standards, and that the handling would be very dated. But it defies all three of those things. Now, of the three, the handling is definitely the most classic of the three, to put it lightly. This car is an animal around the track. It's known for being a brutal car to drive in real life. It spits flames, it's raw, it's hardcore. It was designed to be essentially a rally car, as we said. So, you don't get any frills, you don't get any driver aids, you don't get any help with the car. It's all about you driving it in the classic old school brute force kind of way, like vehicles like the McLaren F1 also utilise. Now, its handling is probably its weakest point overall. The brakes are okay. You have to brake a little bit earlier because of its age, but the brakes are okay. The handling, though, can give some snap oversteer sometimes, to be completely honest. As far as straight line performance, though, it's a monster. You're looking at least 290 fully tuned under its own power. The acceleration is fantastic. The draft potential is incredibly strong. And yes, it is very expensive at 1.25 million credits. But if you are a Ferrari fan, a classic fan, especially a classic supercar fan, or a fan of cars which are less obvious choices than more modern stuff, then you may be quite happy with this car overall. And although it has some niggles and downsides, there's nothing that really stops it from being a very good car. So, that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.